Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to thank and pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hi everyone, and welcome to On the House, the Household Management Science Insights podcast, produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element, with expert knowledge from professionals in the field. I'm your host, Gabriella Joustra, coming to you from Naarm, Melbourne, Australia. Let's get started. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today we're going to be discovering the benefits and beauty of DIY cleaning products with Amy Kolb Noyes, who is a journalist and author of the book Non-Toxic House Cleaning. Hi, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Gabriella.
Thank you for joining me. So before we get going and learning more about this topic, can we get to know you a little bit better, who you are and what's brought you here?
Sure. Well, I live in northern Vermont in the United States, and it is a little remote here. I live in a farmhouse that we have been fixing up for 22 years or so. It's a never-ending project, and I'm a journalist here in Vermont, and I'm also a student and an author and an artist.
Ah, amazing. So many different hats.
Lots of hats.
Great. I think everyone should be a student their whole life, even if you're not actively enrolled in something. I think learning is, and that's why we're here today, is to learn.
I agree, 100%.
Great, thank you. So we're going to do a section called Have You Met Amy? That's where we get to know you through some of your favorite things. So the first thing we'd like to know is, what is your favorite book?
So for a writer, that's a little bit like asking, who's your favorite child? Well, I'll give you a few. I think the first book I fell in love with was Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I'm also a big fan of Bridge to Terabithia by Catherine Patterson, and Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt is another big one for me.
Okay, I've heard of the first two, but I haven't heard of the last one. Can you tell me a bit more about it?
Sure. It's also like the first two. It's written not necessarily for adults. I lean towards kids' books. And it's about immortality, and it's about a family who drank from a spring and that caused them to live forever, and all the repercussions that come with that.
Interesting. I haven't heard of that one, but that sounds very interesting. And about children's books, I think as a kid, I read very few bad children's books. As an adult, I read very few good adults books.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
100%.
So,
yeah.
I think, maybe the quality of kids' books is just higher.
I agreed.
Yeah. And what about a movie you've enjoyed recently?
Yeah. So I'm not a huge moviegoer. So I can't really even think of a movie I've been to recently, but I can tell you one that I am planning to go see that I'm really looking forward to. Also based on a kid's book. It's based Judy Blume's book, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which just came out here, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
Okay. I actually haven't read that one, I haven't seen it because I guess it hasn't come out. What is it about?
It was popular when I was growing up, so it's been around quite a while. And it's just a coming of age story about this girl named Margaret, and all of the adventures and misadventures she has as she matures and becomes a woman.
Great. I certainly loved those types of books when I was a kid, and honestly still now. So probably go check that out as well. And what about podcasts? Do you listen to any?
I do listen to podcasts. One that I recently finished that I adored. Well, I don't know if adored's the right word, but it was captivating. It was Anderson Cooper, who is a reporter for CNN, had a podcast called All There Is with Anderson Cooper. And it's about grief. He did it after the loss of his mother, Gloria Vanderbilt. And it was just incredibly well done.
Wow. I think grief is something we don't really think about very much. So yeah, interesting to listen to a podcast about it, but maybe not for, you got to pick your days to listen to that maybe.
Yeah, you have to be in the right frame of mind to listen to it for sure.
Yeah. And do you have a role model?
Yeah, I have lots of role models. When it comes to this subject, my non-toxic house cleaning, my biggest role model is my grandmother. She grew up during the Depression, and so she is just a master at doing more with less and reusing and zero waste and all those things that are buzzwords now were just, her reality growing up. And that was really inspiring for me.
I think it's so interesting that we are sort of harking back to that sort of era where we really did have to, I think it was make do and mend and use whatever we had at home. And I think it's so great that we can go back to that time instead of having to reinvent the wheel, I guess, and learn from what everyone else did.
Yeah, I think that's a really insightful comment that, it's sort of a pendulum, we got to the point where everything was so excessive and now we're centering back towards, reasonable living, I believe.
Hopefully. And hopefully. Have you, is there a course that you've done that has inspired you?
Oh, yes. So, as I said, I'm a student. I went back to college. I'm getting my master's of fine arts. And so I am literally inspired every day by that, by the what I'm learning and the people around me. It's incredible to be in the studio with very creative young people. So absolutely every day I'm learning and enjoying every minute of it.
That's amazing. I'd love to be inspired every day. Do you mind me asking what are you specializing in? Is there something you're specializing in?
Yeah. So the degree that I'm going for is a degree in studio arts, but I am concentrating on illustration. I've written a number of manuscripts for children's books over the years, and now I'm working on illustrating them.
Amazing. That's going to be great. And to hold a book that you've written and illustrated, the achievement, the accomplishment.
It is a whole new world. It's a great feeling.
I'm looking forward to reading them one day.
Thank you.
Perfect. But we will harken back to the previous book you've written. But yes. Before we do, how do you define household management?
Well, household management, it's complex, right? So I think of economics. Economics, actually, the word economics means household management, the original roots of the word.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it's more than economics, right? It's organization, and it's creating a home, a place where people are comfortable, where they feel loved, where they feel safe. So for me, household management is a lot more than the business of it. It's the creation of home as well.
And I guess cleaning would sort of, create a safe environment and create a comforting environment. If you're surrounded by mess all the time, then it's not going to be very comfortable. No. But are there any misconceptions about household management?
Oh, I think so. I think that people hear that term and feel a little overwhelmed, and I don't think household management has to be all encompassing, a full-time job. I think that organization is key to making household management just part of your life instead of your entire life.
Yes. The house is where we live, but it's not everything that we do.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so you mentioned before, sort of creating our own household cleaners. But I guess what is the difference between something that we've made and something we've bought in the shop? What is a homemade cleaner?
Well, a homemade cleaner in general is, it's a cleaner that you made, clearly. But often what people don't know is that it's made from things you probably already have in your house. Most of the cleaners that I've researched and written about are things that I can open up my cabinets and find and not have to make a special trip to the store to buy, one very expensive, odd ingredient. And if you don't have the items in your home, you can usually find them in the supermarket, but not always in the cleaning aisle.
Ah, interesting. So I guess what are they made of?
So a lot of things. Clearly a whole book's worth of things, but I'll tell you, there are 3 big ingredients that go a long way on their own. I call them the big 3, and they're soap and baking soda and vinegar. And when I say vinegar, I'm referring to just plain white 5% distilled vinegar, nothing fancy, the kind you can buy in a big jug for almost nothing.
Okay, so not balsamic vinegar.
Not balsamic vinegar. That would probably stain better than clean.
Yeah, be a bit sticky as well.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay. And I don't know, I've with soap. So soap is something that we have to make out of a bunch of different ingredients, right? But can you just buy plain soap in the supermarket? Or is it something that we have to make ourselves?
No, you can definitely buy plain soap in the supermarket. So there, I'll give you my whole rundown on soap. First of all, do you know the difference between a soap and a detergent?
No, I don't.
Yeah, most people don't. I didn't before I researched it either. So a soap is made with fat, and it's a natural product. It's usually made with an animal product like beef tallow or goat's milk. And then there's a whole nother category of soaps called Castile soaps, which are made with plant-based fats, so nut oils or vegetable oils. So those are 2 different kinds of soaps. When I'm making cleaners, I gravitate towards liquid Castile soaps. That's not necessary. That's a personal preference. Detergents, on the other hand, are made with synthetic materials. They are usually petroleum-based. Now, there are new detergents that have come on the market since I wrote this book 14 years ago that are made with plant-based. They're plant-based detergents, but traditional detergents are made with petroleum products. And
really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And they were developed because of a shortage of soap making supplies during wartime, way back when. But they took off and really thrived because there are some things that a detergent does better than a soap. And if you have hard water, there are things detergent does better than soap. Soap has a chemical reaction with hard water that leaves behind soap scum. But if you have soft water, you don't have that problem. So a lot of people, like here in Vermont, we have very hard water. So there are benefits to going with a detergent instead of a soap. If you tried laundry soap, like make your own laundry soap with, say, a bar of soap, I can go into a whole recipe, but it will have a reaction with your laundry and it will make sort of your white laundry look a little bit gray after a while, whereas a detergent will not do that. And that's just the reaction between the soap and the hard water. So,
interesting.
Yeah, and there's a whole lot to know about soap.
Yeah, I think we could just do a whole episode just about soap. But maybe I'll keep asking you some questions. But first, what is the difference between hard water and soft water?
So hard water has minerals in it and metals like iron and copper, and soft water just doesn't have that same level of minerals in it.
Okay, and so it's the minerals in the hard water that are reacting to the soaps.
Exactly.
Ah, okay. And so a detergent, I'm guessing, is something like a dishwashing detergent, whereas soap is like the bars of soap that we could buy in the supermarket. Is that sort of what we're talking about?
Yes. So you can buy solid bars of soap, or you can buy liquid soap. I am a proponent of bars of soap. Anything that you don't have to buy in a plastic bottle, I like better personally. However, there are Castile soaps that are liquid soaps that in places around here, and I'm sure many other places, that you can bring your own bottle to the store and fill them there.
Okay, interesting. I think I have seen them, but I wasn't really sure what they were. So I'll have to, do a little bit more of a look through the supermarket and see what they've got. So the sort of three main ingredients that we've talked about are soap, their vinegar, and their baking soda. And so soap we can just find in the cleaning aisle, and then vinegar and baking soda we can find in the cooking aisles.
That's right.
Perfect.
That's right. And vinegar is acidic, and baking soda is basic. And so vinegar, you need here's a little chemistry. So I apologize. I apologize in advance for the chemistry. But if you have an odor or a stain or something that you're trying to clean up that is caused by an acid, then you want to clean it with a base, and vice versa. So that's some homemade cleaners require an acidic mixture, and some require a basic mixture. It just depends on the nature of the stain or whatever it is that you're cleaning up. So that's those two things. Sometimes they're used in combination, the vinegar and the baking soda, but often it's one or the other, if that makes sense.
I've most commonly seen them used together. I think just because people like the fizzing reaction.
Yes.
Does that do anything? That fizzing reaction?
Does. Oh, absolutely. Okay. So that is one of my favorite things to do if you have kids who you're trying to get into cleaning, is to let them clean the toilet by putting in vinegar and baking soda straight into the toilet water and watching that bubbly reaction come up. And you hear commercials for commercial cleaners talking about scrubbing bubbles. Well, that's the same thing that's going to do right there. And then if you take a toilet brush and switch it around, the bubbles will come back again. And and it's kind of fun. Cleaning can be fun.
Okay. So not only easy and homemade, but also fun. Perfect.
Right.
So we haven't sort of dived into this yet, but why should we use homemade cleaners rather than store-bought? You've mentioned a little bit about plastic, but what other reasons?
There's a lot of good reasons. Health is one of them. The reason that I started researching homemade cleaners is because my mother had health issues, and she had reactions to things like ammonia. She'd have a really bad reaction. She couldn't go in a store where they'd recently mopped the floor with ammonia, or she'd pass out.
Wow.
So really, really strong reactions. And my daughter, as a child, had asthma. And so a lot of caustic fumes from commercial cleaners I was concerned that they might trigger her asthma. So I tried to limit the use of those in my home. And I have pets. And, if you clean your floor with a toxic thing, and then your dog comes and licks the floor, which dogs sometimes do, I just worry about what he's licking up. So I know if I've made my own floor polish that it's not going to kill my dog or affect him adversely in any way.
That totally makes sense. I mean, as a kid, I have definitely licked things I should not have.
We all go through that, yes.
Yeah. But are there any reasons why we should use store-bought cleaners over household cleaners, like homemade cleaners?
There are a couple areas that I would recommend a store-bought cleaner. One we already talked about, and that is laundry detergent if you have hard water. Or if you're going to make your own detergent, make it with detergent instead of soap, which seems a little ridiculous to make your own detergent out of detergent now that I say it out loud. So, anyway, that is one area. And the other one is dishwashing detergent for dishwashing machines. I just have not found a formula that works well and cleans dishes well in dishwashing machines. I have come up with a formula that you could use in a pinch, but really people don't have dishwashing detergent emergencies usually. So I would recommend going to the store and buying dishwashing detergent if you use a machine for dishwashing.
I think the thing is, if you have a dishwashing machine emergency, the second option is just to use the sink.
Yeah, exactly.
We already have it built in.
That's a perfect answer. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there are some really great reasons why we should use some homemade cleaners. But how do we get started with using them and creating them?
Well, curiosity is how I got started, and I think that's a great way to get started. There are a lot more resources now than when I first started looking into this. You can find things online, which wasn't so much of a thing back then. But I recommend, obviously, I recommend buying a guide like the one that I wrote because everything is there in one place. However, if you're more adventurous, you can find different formulas online, and then you can tweak them for your own benefit. One of the greatest things about making your own cleaners is you can make it exactly the way you like it. If you like your kitchen to smell like pine needles, but you like your bathroom to smell like lavender, then you can use those essential oils to scent your cleaners. So they're very customizable, and that is it's sort of the gateway into all sorts of experimentation.
But I guess there must be some things that you need in specific areas that you don't need in other areas. What do you need in different areas? Do you mind explaining, maybe sharing some recipes as well?
Sure. So you need, if you're in the kitchen, you want to disinfect, right? You need antiseptic. Excuse me. I mentioned vinegar as one of our main ingredients in a lot of the cleaning solutions. Vinegar is not a disinfectant by the federal, at least in the United States, by the federal standard, because it has to hit a certain, I think it's like 99%. It kills germs, and it falls just under that. So it's pretty strong. It's pretty good, but it doesn't meet that very technical term of disinfectant. So that said, I still use vinegar in the kitchen to clean cutting boards, to clean surfaces, and it's worked well for me all these years. So other places that you want to use something maybe different, the bathroom, maybe you have more of a concern about mold or mildew, and in a place like that, you want something where you're going to be able to scrub hard water stains. So you need something with a little grit to it. There are a few different things. Baking soda, as I mentioned before, is one thing that is really good at scrubbing because it has a little bit of grit to it. But in the bathroom, say you have a glass shower wall and you want to clean that, but you don't want to scratch it, I would recommend borax, which is similar. It's to baking soda. It's mineral based, but it won't scratch your glass surfaces. It also has the benefit of killing mildew if you use it correctly. It comes in a box in the laundry detergent aisle, and it's a powder. And if you moisten it, then it will kill mildew. If you just put it on dry, it won't. Luckily, places that grow mildew tend to be damp. So you don't have to worry about, you can just sprinkle it on if it's already wet, then you're fine. The biggest difference between that and using a bleach or something more harsh, more toxic, is that it's going to take a little more time to work. So maybe you sprinkle that borax on at night and then you go the next morning and you wipe it away and rinse it away rather than just having it instantly clean. So there are some trade-offs like that, but I don't think that you can say homemade cleaners don't work as well. They just work differently. You have to work a little differently with them sometimes for the very toughest jobs.
Okay. Something that I think could be difficult is, and I have tried to use baking powder in my bathroom before, how do you get powders onto a vertical surface?
So here is what I'll give you a recipe that's one of my favorite ones, and you can use this on a vertical surface. If you take the amount, and let me just say, some of the cleaners that I make a spray bottle full, and they last for a good long time. This one is not like that. You only want to make as much as you're going to use at one time because it just doesn't store very well. It does, but it tends to dry up after time. Anyway, if you take a small amount of baking soda, say an eighth of a cup of baking soda, and then you take a liquid soap and you just put a few drops of it in and stir it around until you get the consistency of like cake frosting, then you can put that on your vertical surface. And that has the grit that will clean, and it has the soap that will disinfect. And then you just want to make sure you rinse it really well when you're done.
Ah, okay. Because I was very confused when I was like in my bathroom with my baking soda and like had a spoon. And I'm like, how do I just throw it at the wall? I don't know. And I kind of gave up and I started using the stuff from the supermarket.
The other thing you can do, and this is a little less complicated, is you can just take a damp sponge and sprinkle the baking soda on your sponge and then wipe with that.
That's also very smart. I obviously wasn't thinking very clearly that day.
I've been there.
Yep. So you also mentioned that some things that you make have different expiry dates. Why is that?
So it depends on the ingredients that you're using. So if you're using natural ingredients like lemon juice is another acid that you could say you hate the smell of vinegar. And I will say vinegar has a very strong smell, but it dissipates pretty quickly. So when you're cleaning, you're like, oh, it really smells like vinegar, but a half an hour later, it doesn't at all. But say you hate the smell of vinegar, you don't want to use it, you like the smell of lemons, you want to use lemon juice. That's great. You can substitute lemon juice for vinegar in pretty much any recipe. However, lemons go bad. And so lemon juice goes bad. So if you make a spray bottle full of that, first off, I would make a small spray bottle and then I would stick it in the fridge and keep it in there. And that will extend the shelf life a little bit. Another thing that tends to go off, I guess, is anything with an oil in it, like an olive oil polish or an almond oil. Those will eventually curdle. But I haven't actually had a problem with that. But, theoretically, it could happen for sure.
Okay, interesting. I did have an olive oil that went off when I was cooking with it sometime, over the period, and it was really not very good. I don't know. I was like, why am I coughing every time I use this olive oil? So
that's
I can,
bad, yeah.
yeah. So I threw that out, and I can see, yeah, olive oil does eventually go bad.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any? I guess, are there any dangerous combinations of things that we shouldn't put together, or things that we should look out for?
Yeah. So, as I said before, this is chemistry. So even though you're using, non-toxic materials, if you mix things together, you can create a whole new substance, and that could have its consequences. So I would just encourage people to really know their ingredients before they start experimenting. I think the most sort of caustic things that I use in a cleaner tend to be the essential oils. And so it's not that they're going to create a toxic fume, but they could be rough on your skin. So there are some oils like clove oil is a great disinfectant. It's good at killing mold and mildew, but you don't want to use that with bare hands. You want to dilute it, and you want to wear gloves if you're using that, because it can be harsh on your skin. Yeah.
If you talk about diluting, now I imagine diluting is with water, but oil and water don't mix. Do you just shake it and then use it, or are you diluting it with something else?
Yeah, no, I do dilute it with water, and that is something that's a great point. If you're making a full bottle full of something, every time you use it, you should shake it up, because commercial cleaners, they have chemicals in them that suspends everything equally, and so you can just pick up a spray bottle and spray it. But that if you're making your own, you obviously don't have that going on. So you want to make sure you give the bottle a little shake before you use it every time.
Otherwise, it's just water.
Otherwise, it's just water. That's right. Or just oil, which is not green either.
Or just oil. No. Yeah. And what about surfaces and things? Is there anything that shouldn't mix? Can I put vinegar on wood? Is there something I shouldn't put on wood or other, surfaces?
Yeah, so wood and leather need nourishment. So those you can clean wood with vinegar, but it's going to dry it out if you don't have an oil in there to replenish the wood. Let me see if I can call you up a good wood.
It's sort of like skin. If you put something drying on it, you need to put a moisturizer on it afterwards.
Exactly. That's right.
I guess that's what leather is.
Yeah. Animal skin. Yep. So here, for example, is a furniture polish. It's not exactly, it's more of a technique than a recipe, but pure almond oil or walnut oil. And if you wipe that on a clean cotton rag and then follow it by buffing it out with sort of a dry cloth, cotton cloth, that's a great way to nourish your wood after you clean it. And then you can also put in maybe a few drops of vanilla extract that just makes it smell really nice afterwards. And the polishing it with the dry cloth helps the wood absorb without having the oil sort of just sit on top the whole time. If you're doing that on a floor surface, so you could use it on a wood floor as well, but it's going to be really slippery for a little while until it dries. So that's just caution there.
Yes, maybe put warning signs everywhere before you do that one.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. What about if you're allergic to nut oils?
Yeah.
What could you use in that case?
Olive oil instead. I use olive oil as a substitute for nut oils a lot. I personally am really fond of sweet almond oil. So that's kind of my go-to. But if you're allergic to tree nuts, then olive oil is a good substitute.
Okay, great. Because I do know a few people who wouldn't be very happy if they came into my house and had an allergic reaction as soon as they came in.
Yeah, no, that would be bad.
Yeah. So, yeah, do you have any other sort of recipes or suggestions for people? Maybe your favorite one that you use all the time?
I do. Let me give you a couple.
Perfect.
I have a bathroom spray that I call the Minty Clean Spray. And this recipe is for a large spray bottle, like 16 ounces or larger. You can always cut it in half. Like anything, these are all customizable. But for a 16-ounce spray bottle, you'd want to use, I have a tablespoon of peppermint Castile soap. You could use any peppermint soap, but it really gives it a nice eye-opening scent. You want to put the soap directly in the spray bottle, then put in a cup of warm water. So that's going to dilute the soap. And then you want to put in a quarter teaspoon of tea tree oil. That's got antiviral properties. It also kills mildew. 12 drops. You can do more or less. I like 12 drops of spearmint oil. That's antibacterial as well as smelling really nice. And then you put in a half a cup of vinegar and shake the whole thing up. It's important to put the water in and dilute the soap before the vinegar, because if you just put in the soap, then put in the vinegar, the soap will start to curdle. And it just won't be as effective. So water down the soap before you add the vinegar for sure. And then just shake that bottle up before you use it every time too.
Great. That sounds pretty easy. I think I have few of those items. I might have to go shopping, but then I'll have peppermint oil at home, spearmint oil at home.
Right. And it will, the little tiny bottle that you buy those essential oils in will last years and years. And they're probably the most expensive part of the recipes that I have in this book. And pretty much every recipe, you can omit those. They just mostly make it smell good. As I said, there are some mold killing, antiviral, antibacterial properties, but mostly it's for the smell.
And so we've talked a lot about sort of the dangers and everything. So it's very important to do the research beforehand, not just sort of dive right in and make things up as you go along.
Right. Or go to a trusted source like a recipe book or, a source that, don't just Google something and then try. Make sure that it's got some reviews behind it, at least.
I have seen a few videos online of people doing very dangerous things. I think mixing vinegar and bleach and not really doing the research beforehand and creating gases that can really harm them. So you also mentioned that you have to make them. Is it very time consuming to make all of these products?
No, I wouldn't say it's time consuming at all. Really, a lot of these things like that baking soda and soap scrub I talked about, it's really quick. It takes 2 minutes to make it. If you're making something like that spray bottle full of ingredients, that again, it's going to take you less than 5 minutes to make it, and then you have a whole bottle full, right? So it's definitely, if you're looking at running downtown to the store to buy a bottle, that's going to take more time than actually making one in those cases. So no, it takes time in that sometimes you have to let something sit. So if you have, say, hard water and you have a hard water stain around your drain in your bathroom sink, my recommendation would be to close the drain in the sink and put a little bit of vinegar on a washcloth and just sit it on top of that mark there. and it's not going to go away instantly. You might have to go read a book or, take a walk or do whatever else you need to do that day, and then come back later and wipe it down. I think household cleaners that you make need a little more investment in either time or heat or energy. So a little extra scrubbing power, maybe. To me, that's a fair trade-off for not breathing toxic fumes. And when I say heat, sometimes it's using a warm water when you're making that scrub, or actually when you're cleaning your oven, turning the oven on to a low temperature. Here's a tip for you. If you are cleaning an oven, I don't know if you've ever tried commercial oven cleaners, but they're really stinky. Like the whole house smells. But if you have like stains on the bottom of your oven, put a little coarse salt on them, like kosher salt. Turn your oven up to like 200 degrees, some low setting, and then just scrub that coarse salt into the stain. The heat will help it lift right up. And you can do the same thing on the sides of your oven, on the top of your oven. Just put a mirror down at the bottom so you can see what you're doing, and then work the top.
So smart. I tried cleaning my oven once, and it was so hard trying to like look up and scrub at the same time.
It is.
I don't think I've cleaned it since then. I probably should.
Bring your mirror.
Yes, I'll bring the mirror, and I will bring my salt. I've got salt at home. I can do that.
You could do that.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Was there anything that you wanted to share that we didn't get a chance to touch on?
Let me think. I think we've covered a lot of the basics. I guess I just want to encourage everyone to give it a try, because there are so many benefits. It's far and away less expensive to make your own cleaners than to buy commercial cleaners. It's far and away better for your home environment, as we talked about the health, but also the wider environment. I mean, when you're washing toxic cleaners down the drain, that's going into the water table. It goes into the whole water cycle and can cause fish kills and all sorts of damage. So there are good reasons to try this for you, for your family, for the environment. Less if you're not buying, plastic bottles full of cleaner every time, but reusing the same bottle or using a glass bottle instead, that's better for the environment as well. So there's not just one good reason why you should try this. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, definitely. I think about if I can put vinegar in my body, then I can probably put it down the drain. That's fine, right?
Right. It's a good rule of thumb.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And what's a practice that you do in your own home to manage your cleaning and to keep your home clean?
One rule of thumb I have is to break down the house and do one room a day. So I'm never spending a whole day cleaning my house. If I clean the bedroom on a Monday and the bathroom on a Tuesday, and I'm picking up as I go. There's a difference between cleaning and being neat, right? So if you're just keeping your environment neat, but you really want to go in and deep clean one room a day, that just makes it so much more palatable for me personally than thinking, oh my gosh, I have to clean the house today.
Yeah, definitely. I'm always like, oh, I have to clean this room and this room. Oh, I don't have time for that today. I just won't do it. And then it doesn't get done. But yeah, breaking it down room by room. And then you can move all of the stuff from one room to another room, which is also what I do. Are there any challenges to this practice, do you think?
Yeah, sure. That procrastination is a big challenge to that practice. But I think, like anything, if you set it as a habit, it becomes easier, and it becomes second nature.
Do you have any recommendations on how to sort of turn it into a habit?
Yeah, just maybe start with the room that you don't mind cleaning first early in the week, right? So if cleaning the kitchen I really like to have a clean kitchen. If that's what's going to make me happiest, then I'm gonna do a deep clean on the kitchen on Monday, and then I've already got one room down first day of the week. Maybe that makes it a little easier to do the next and the next and the next. And I have another tip for you too. When you're cleaning, if you start up top at the highest surfaces and work your way down, you're not going to be fighting, say, dust coming from the top shelf after you've already vacuumed the floor or whatever. So I always work from top down when I'm cleaning.
I certainly learned that lesson working in a shop, cleaning the shelves and realizing I had to do all the bottom ones again.
Yeah,
after I cleaned the top shelves. Yeah, that's not fun. But yeah, definitely a very important tip. Saves a lot of time and effort having to clean twice. So we'll move on to our open mic section. So that's where you get a chance to talk about something that you're passionate about, and it doesn't necessarily have to be related to the topic today. Did you have an idea of what you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. I think I'd like to talk about the use of single-use plastics in society today. I think that it's really a big problem, and we're getting better at recognizing that problem, but there's still a long way to go. People are looking at, reusable straws and reusable shopping bags and reusable mugs instead of getting a to-go coffee every time. And that's all great. And that all adds up a lot. But there are a lot of other places I think that people could be doing better at using less plastic. I went to the supermarket yesterday and I wanted to buy a pre-made salad, and there was the salad, which came in a plastic container, and then it had a plastic divider, and then it had separate plastic containers for the croutons and the dressing and the other things to be mixed in. And that's it's just over the top, some of the packaging that we see in our daily lives. And if people can just remember that doesn't go away, and we've learned fairly recently that it rarely gets recycled well. There's a lot of good reasons to use plastic, but there's also a lot of good reasons to avoid single-use plastics if you can. And if you are buying plastic containers, use them to put your homemade cleaning products in, because you don't need to buy a special spray bottle. You can get one out of your recycle bin. And all sorts of plastic, yogurt containers are great ways to mix up some of those cleaners that are single use, and you can use them over and over again. So yeah, that's my soapbox.
Thank you. Soapbox, very appropriate.
Thank you.
I've definitely found that I try and buy the environmentally friendly cleaners, and then after I've used them all, I've gotten every last drop out, then I'm like, I've got this plastic that I need to recycle. And I just, it just sort of piles up, and I feel bad because I don't want to just throw it out. So I love the idea of, keeping those and reusing them, and, making them not just single use. Yeah,
I think that's really important. I think it's going to be even more important in the future. So getting in that habit now is a great thing to do.
Great. Thank you. So if our listeners want to find out more about you, where should they find you?
I'm on social media. I'm on Instagram and Twitter, not a lot, but I do have a presence there at Amy Kolb Noyes. That's AMYKOLBNOYES. And that's also my website, amykolbnoyes.com.
Great. Thank you. And thank you for joining me today, Amy. We will make sure that those links are in the show notes so people can find them. And what was the name of your book again, if people want to find it?
It's called Non-Toxic House Cleaning. It's a very sexy name, right? It's part of a series called the Chelsea Green Guide series. So it's technically the Green Guide to Non-Toxic House Cleaning. But that's what it looks like.
Perfect. Thank you. I think it's very easy to find. If people want to know about non-toxic house cleaners, they know exactly where to look. So thank you for joining me today. It was really great to learn. I'm going to be taking some of your tips back home. Baking soda and a sponge, I'm coming for you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Gabriella. It was really fun.
You've been listening to On the House, produced by the Household Management Science Labs, a division of LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. More episodes like this from across 10 life management perspectives can be found by searching LMSL on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, and any other podcasting apps available on your smart devices. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating, sharing, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps other people to find it so we can grow and continue to bring you quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website, hm.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Gabriella Joustra. Thanks for tuning in.